I'm living by Ayni because I know the universe does not operate in a vacuum. Ayni is not giving to get something, is not giving to look good. You must give with an open heart. You cannot take and take and take and take and take and expect to get and get and get and get. You can be more giving in life. Put other people before yourself. Build other people. Serve other people. Let's make the world a better place. We have to reciprocate something. It's not just sitting here going, oh, I love you, you love me, I love you, you love me. That's not it. Do not beat yourself up. Be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror and ask, am I a giver? Am I a taker? You're listening to the Transform Your Life from the Inside Out podcast. This episode is titled Ayni, the Sacred Law of Reciprocity 2025. Now, this comes from all the years that I've been working with a sorcerer, Don Javier, and I want to dig deeper into the concept of Ayni, which is, again, the sacred reciprocity of life. I've done a few other episodes on this, and I find that people, for whatever the reasons, they just need more grounding in this concept of reciprocity, the sacred law of life. As we're finishing 2024, I want you to have an amazing 25, and I want to dig in and give you food for thought about new ways that you can be in the coming year. Keep listening. Okay, Ayni. Ayni is ancient Incan for reciprocity of life. I've done a few episodes on this before, I think 3 in the past. I did one with James Wedmore, and I've done a couple on my own, but I want to talk about it again because it's so foundational to creating and having what you want in life. You know, the Amish, they live from Ayni, and they call it barn building. And barn building is basically, when I need a barn, you help me. When you need a barn, I help you. We help each other, we share. And Ayni, again, being ancient Incan, the law of life, basically means today for you, tomorrow for me. And this is such a fundamental principle in life, but so many people miss it. Transparency, I missed it for a lot of years. It's almost embarrassing, and I'm not beating myself up because there's no reason to. It's embarrassing to myself the amount of years that I didn't understand this concept. And I lived for me first, and I did things for me first. And I wanted to get things for me first. And I've learned over the years working with Don Javier that this is a foundational law. And I've watched him live his entire life that I've known him this particular way. Oh, I meant to say earlier, the past, I don't know, dozen or so episodes were conversations with a sorcerer. This last episode of the year is me sharing just my take on this concept with a heartfelt and deep and sincere hope that you'll take this in, you'll chew on it, and you'll bring more Ayni into your life, and you'll exercise more Ayni in making your life better and making other people's lives better as well. I remember hearing a guy named Earl Nightingale. He was a peak performance expert, motivational speaker back in the 50s. And he said, when I was listening to him in the 90s, and this was from the 1950s, he said, if you want to see what kind of contribution somebody makes to life, just drive through a neighborhood. And he goes, the nicer neighborhoods, and this is not ironclad, I just want to share, but he goes, the nicer neighborhoods, these people make more of a contribution to life and to culture and society than perhaps the poorer neighborhoods. And then he talked about maybe the clergy and et cetera. And he said they make their contributions, even though they don't live in the nicer homes many times, they make their contributions through service to others through perhaps a religion. And I heard that many years ago, and I thought, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me right on, but I never got it. But I want to share a story that I've shared a couple of times on the podcast, and I'll share again. Before I moved to Sedona, I was visiting back in 1996, and I was having a coaching call with one of my clients. He was a real estate agent, and he wanted to go from $750,000 to $1 million per year in income, and he hired me to coach him to make that happen. And I started talking to him about this concept of Ayni and reciprocity, and he stopped me and said, no, Jim, no, I want you to help me with real estate, and I want you to help me build my business. All this stuff about giving to other people, I don't want to do it. And actually what he said was, he goes, I give to people through my professional expertise and my service there. Exactly what he said. When I've taken care of my wife and my kids first, then I will help other people. In that moment, I knew that he wasn't a fit as a coaching client anymore. And I turned him loose the next week because I know that, which I'll talk about in a minute, we have to give to get. And what you get is what you give. My partner and I were at dinner with friends about 3 years ago. There were some new friends. And one of these new friends said to my partner, what is it that you like most about Jim? And there were a couple of things, but one that my partner said was, he's so giving to other people. And that many people talk about giving to other people. And they talk about giving to other people when they have it. But he truly walks his talk and he gives to other people. And that's how I live today. I give and give and give because the way that I want to live my life, it's not my life. It's a life in service to my time on the planet. And I know that to use my life well, I have to be, and I worked for him many years ago, somebody that used his life is Jimmy Carter. He lives his life in service to other people. And where I work from, which is Ayni, is I want to use my life to serve other people so that when I'm done on this planet, I can say, I left it all in the field. I gave it all. I gave everything that I had to create the best possible experience for other people. And I know with 100% certainty that when I do that, and because I've been doing it, it's been giving me everything that I want in my life. Like my client from several years ago said, he wanted more in life. But where he was working from is me first. Me first. I can't judge him or anyone else because, in all transparency, I used to be that same way to some degree. I've always been a giver. I've always been the kind of person that would basically just give a friend or people or help anyone I can, but give a friend the shirt off my back, so to speak. But what I recognized, and it hit me really hard one time, is that even though I am a giver, and I recognized this about 10 years ago, even though I'm a giver, I was a selfish giver. Now, what I mean by selfish giver would be, and mainly with my time, what I would do is something like, okay, I have all these things I have to do for me, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And then once I'm done with all these things I have to do with me, then I will get over to helping you. Now, of course, there are caveats here. We have deadlines and work and obligations and different things. Use your common sense here. But really where I work from is let me take care of me first, and then I will take care of you. And I don't work that way anymore. Where I work from is I might not be able to get to it in this exact moment, but I will move it up somewhere in the queue. I will do what I can, when I can, where I can, with what I have to be of service to you, whatever that might be. I want to go a different direction here with Ayni. Many people misinterpret Ayni as, oh, okay, Jim, I get it. And I see this all the time. People saying, Jim, I'm a giver. I give and give and give, but no one ever gives me anything. I'll talk about that in just a moment. So many people misinterpret Ayni as give and give and give and give and give and give and give. Yes and no, that's what it is. Give and give and give and give as long as what you're giving is valued and reciprocated. So I could give a lot of love, and that's not Ayni the way that I'm talking about it, but it kind of is. I could give a lot of love. But if it's not reciprocated, then I basically know that this isn't the place for me. I can give a lot of help. But if there's no reciprocation, even in the slightest amount, even if there's no reciprocation, I know that, you know what? I'm not going to do this anymore. Why? Because that person is a taker. And if I let them take, they're going to drain my energy. If they drain my energy, then I won't have the energy to do what I need to do to help more people. So I am not tit for tat, meaning I do this, you give me that. I do this, you give me that. I do this, you give me that. Scorecard, scorecard, scorecard. I don't do that. But basically, I am aware that when I am in relationship, there must be reciprocity. When friends do things for me, I insist that I take them to dinner or do something in kind. As a matter of fact, I will not take something from them unless it's a gift. I won't take something without an agreement of exchange that I can do something back. I recently had, and we'll release the episode soon, I interviewed Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God. Amazing guy. Very, very chilled out, actually very comical guy. Not what I expected. And very easy to talk to. And I reached out to his assistant after I interviewed Neil, and I asked for an address because I wanted to send him a gift card. And she said, "Oh, that's not necessary." And I said, "I know it's not necessary, but it is necessary for me because I took his time. I took his expertise. I took his energy, and I'm going to share it with my tribe. I must exchange energy. I must give something back." I'll talk more about that in just a bit. I also did that when Bruce Lipton was on a couple of years ago. Bruce gave me something, I gave something back. Why? Because if I take and take and take, I know that it's going to be taken back and away from me. When I really recognized this was one of my good friends back in the 90s. His name is Doug White. There were 4 of us young guys in our 20s, and like a lot of guys, we were wasting our lives in our 20s, though we're all into personal development, and we listened to a whole lot of Zig Ziggler and Dennis Waitley and Brian Tracy. And as a matter of fact, Doug's the one who introduced me to Wayne Dyer. But we listened to, which is what literally kicked off and put me on my path. But we were at a bar one night and we walked in. We'd go to the bars every Saturday night, and Doug tossed down his credit card. And I said, well, I don't know what I said, but I said something along the lines of, well, here, let me help out. And Doug said, no. He goes, you just get it next time. And so what we did, us 4 guys, we never took advantage of each other. We knew, we were vigilant, hyper vigilant about, you know what? Somebody else paid last time. I have to pay this time. We respected, there's the key word. We respected the relationship. Now let me start concretizing this for you guys. Zig Ziggler, I have not listened to him. He was a motivational speaker back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. I've not listened to Zig in 25 years. But I was at a live event in 1992, and Zig Ziggler was on stage, and he said, I made a note of it. Zig Ziggler said, the way to get what you want in life is to help enough people get what they want. Let that settle in. The way to get what you want in life is to help enough people get what they want. Without giving it a name, that is Ayni. I used to speak at multi-level marketing companies, network marketing companies, and I spoke at some of the largest ones in the country. I even consulted the owners of one of the top 10 largest ones in the US, and they invited me to their national convention. And there was a guy on stage that was the number 2 earner in the company, making millions of dollars per year. Many people, when they get into multi-level marketing, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I think the industry might have a bad name to some people to some degree. The way I look at it is, hey, it's no different than business. It's just a different business model. But I remember him saying on stage, I didn't try to be rich. I didn't try to be a multimillionaire. What I did is I found 2 extremely competent and motivated people. And what I decided to do was to make each of them a millionaire. And I poured everything into supporting these two people. And I taught them the same thing. And that built both of my downlines in both of my legs, was supporting other people. I often talk about my mentor, Virginia Cook. She built a multi-billion-dollar real estate company in Texas. And she said, Jim, drop the word achievement. She told me this at Christmas in I think the year 2000 it was. Jim, drop the word achievement and replace it with the word contribution. Contribution with an open heart is where we have to work from. Today, I mean this humbly, but I'm a multimillionaire. And I wanted that. This day and age, I don't give a shit. I really don't. As a matter of fact, I maybe have made my life more complicated by doing all that. And I'm all about simplicity. And maybe I'd like to simplify my life in some ways. But I'm a multimillionaire today. And for so many years, I wanted that. I wanted to, air quote, be rich because I grew up poor. And I worked my ass into the ground doing it. Me, work. And things took off for me massively over a decade ago when I started building other people and pouring everything into building other people first. And when I started building other people first, that started building me. But what we do as humans, we get into scarcity, survival mode. We get into scarcity, and then we get into, oh my God, I've got to hoard, and I've got to take care of me, and I've got to look out for number one, and all these kinds of things, and we take our focus off from other people. And when we do that, we're not an Ayni anymore. We're focusing on us. I became rich when I helped others first, and then I charged my worth and I charged my value. That is reciprocity, meaning I help you and you help me. Now, of course, money is attached to it in a professional sense, but I also live that way. But what I want you to understand is people will often say we get paid for the value that we create in the world. That is not true. We get paid for the degree to which we value the value that we create in the world. Because you can create a lot of value, but not value your value. And if you don't value your value, other people won't pay you for your value. So you create a lot of value for them. They create no value back for you. And literally, you're left holding an empty bag. We must value our value. And in my professional relationships, like my transformational coaching program and different things that I offer, everyone's got to ante up. Everyone has skin in the game. I have skin in the game. Even like this podcast. You know, you might not know this, but every episode, just to have the team alone, the podcast team, production on every single episode is a minimum. The episode you're listening to right now, at a minimum, cost me $2,000. Yes. So I'm investing in you guys, knowing that most of you won't do anything differently. I'm just telling you, hate me, don't like me, whatever it is. I'm just telling you the truth. But those of you that work from Reciprocity will say, you know what? I want to learn more. I want to be more. I want to have more. I want to do more. Yes, let me engage in Ayni and Reciprocity with Jim. It's just the way of the world. You know, as I said earlier, and I'm not criticizing anyone because if I can help, then I love to help. But many will take and very few will return. And it's just a reality of life. So what I want to share is that reciprocity of life is not lopsided reciprocity. It's not about everybody giving something to you and you taking, or you giving something to everyone else and them taking, and then it's lopsided. It's not balanced. So what Ayni is not. Ayni is not giving out of guilt. You know, I feel guilty. Everyone else is doing it. I should do it. Okay, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it. Ayni is not giving out of obligation. Well, everybody else did, so I guess I have to do it. Ayni is not giving out of recognition. If I were to put my name on a hospital wing, which I would not put my name on a hospital wing, but if I were to do that and I gave the money to do it, I would make it anonymous. Why? Because I'm going to get my compensations and my rewards from spirit, not, not from having my name plastered on the side of a building. That is self-serving. That is selfish. I refuse to do that. Ayni is not giving to get something. Ayni is not giving to look good. Ayni is not giving to get accolades or recognition or a pat on the head. That is what Ayni is not. What Ayni is these concepts. You must recognize that Ayni is giving before receiving, holding the feeling and holding the being that giving is more important than receiving. And many of us say, but yeah, Jim, I got bills to pay. I need to receive. That's when, if you've got $100 in your pocket, you need to give away 10. I've been there before. And that's when we say, are you kidding me? I've only got 100. I can't afford to give away 10. Remember, we get what we give. And when we give and we can't afford to give is when we are given more and more comes back to us. So Ayni is recognizing, becoming this, living this way, that giving comes before receiving. Ayni is sacred reciprocity. It's a sacred agreement to engage in a balanced exchange between yourself and other people. Ayni, this is important. Ayni is an equitable exchange. The exchange needs to be equitable. Now, I don't have a calculator out. I don't have a tally sheet. I don't keep track of it. But let's say that I go to take a friend to dinner, or one particular friend, and I did have a friend like this. And so we say, let's go to dinner once per month. And every time we go to dinner and I pay for dinner, it's always the expensive dinner. But every time we go to dinner and then it's his turn to pay for dinner, he wants to go to the cheapest places. And I don't judge people on the money they have or they don't. That might be all he has, but it wasn't. He had plenty of money. He was just cheap. There's a difference between having and then being cheap with money. So for me, I'd be like, hey, let's go. Let's have whatever you want. He could afford the same thing, but he wouldn't do it because he was cheap. That's not equitable. That's what I mean by equitable. And again, I don't have a tally sheet and all that kind of stuff, but I do make sure that when I'm giving and giving and giving, there's at least something coming back. And I don't care what it is, as long as it is from the heart, not out of obligation. You know, I help some people and they have no money. That's fine. But you know what? Make me some cookies. I like cookies, by the way, peanut butter cookies. Make me some cookies. Do something to give back just a little bit. Ayni is joyful giving. Giving should be done, and this is the hardest but the easiest for many of us. Your giving should be wholeheartedly from the heart. You should feel the joy of giving. I talked on the last episode, or you might have heard an ad for the Secret podcast where I dig deeper in each episode and give you examples and do some coaching on it. When I bought Don Javier a Tesla for helping me heal, that was extreme. I was like a kid at Christmas doing that. That was extreme, heart-centered joy for me when I did that. I mean, that's one of the most joyful times of my life, that someone who helped me live and to heal, I could give something back. Ayni, for the most part, is a physical aspect, meaning there's a physical engagement involved, meaning we have to reciprocate something. It's not just sitting here going, oh, I love you, you love me, I love you, you love me. That's not it. It's simply doing something and in the activity of giving to another human being. And for me, as I talked about earlier, is challenges with time. I would often put my time before other people. And what I look at is time is valuable to me, very valuable. It's all I have on this planet. Time is more valuable than money. And so what I look at is how can I give you my time in a way, and again, it's not tit for tat. I'm saying this multiple times, but I'm aware, if somebody's a taker, I basically just create some distance or I modify my behavior. Doesn't mean I'm not friends with them. It doesn't mean that I don't love them or care for them. It simply means that I recognize they haven't learned and mastered the concept of Ayni. So I challenge you, as we roll into 2025, start thinking about how you can start living from a place of getting. How can you start giving in 2025? I'm going to ask you something, of course, you won't answer here, but deep down in your heart, are you more of a taker? Are you more of seeing what you can get from people? What's in it for me? I've seen people that have lived that way. I used to live that way, and I've even seen it in people around me. And to me, it's pretty beautiful and miraculous when I see them change and they get the concept of Ayni, and they're like, oh my God, it's so amazing that I'm now giving to people, and there's so many things coming into my life. I remember that I had a student one time. She was in my mastermind back in 2019, which was $25,000. And it was pretty in-depth and pretty intense. And I didn't know she was behind on her payments, and my finance manager brought it to my attention. I didn't say anything to her, and she brought it to my attention. And I said, great, just get caught back up again. Stay in the group, but get caught back up. I didn't recognize how far behind she was. Well, she became 6 months behind, but you know what? This whole time, she knew she was behind. Never one time did she say, Jim, let me make just a little bit of a payment. Let me make a partial payment. Let me just show you how I'm going to tackle this. Nothing. And there came a time where it wasn't fair to other people when they were making their payments of $2,000 per month and she was paying nothing. I had to put her outside the group very kindly. And she said, Jim, it's so hard for me to get ahead. As soon as money comes in, it goes right back out. This bill, that bill, this bill, that bill, and it just never ends, money in, money out. And that's what I want to share with you. That could be a reason the money in, money out happens, because you're actually working in reverse. You're trying to get and get and get and get and get to get ahead. I've been there before, as I mentioned earlier in the episode, and you're trying to get, which means you're a taker, which means you're not putting out to engage the flow of reciprocity and Ayni in your life. I love the Native American philosophy. If you were to go to a Native American elder and you were to ask an elder or the medicine man or the shaman for healing, you never go empty-handed. You simply go and you first, I'll reiterate, you first make an offering to the elder, the chief, the wise one. That is a show of respect. You make the offering first, and then you make the request. Don Javier does many things for me, and I always make sure that I'm exchanging the energy back. Why? Because I want to keep the cycle going. Because the more that I keep the cycle going, the more that I can bring into my life, the more that I can bring into my life, the more that I can bring to you guys, and the more expansion that I can bring to all of us. So I'm living by Ayni because I know the universe does not operate in a vacuum, meaning you cannot, because the universe will always balance. You cannot take and take and take and take and take and expect to get and get and get and get. So you must give to get, and you must give with an open heart. Little reminder here as we start wrapping up this episode is we now have the Secret Podcast where I dive deeper into each and every episode. I get more personal there. I give you more instruction about each and every episode. I give you more direction, more interaction, and I do a podcast Q&A in that group where I can answer your questions about particular podcast episodes. I share information there that I do not share here in the podcast, and it is only for the insiders in that group. And it's a monthly group that I and my team are in there on pretty much a daily basis. So to join this group, go to jimfortin.com/insiders, jimfortin.com/insiders. Your transformational takeaway is do not beat yourself up. Be honest with yourself. Look in the mirror and ask, am I a giver? Am I a taker? If I'm a giver, but I still don't have anything coming into my life, who's taking advantage of me? How am I letting them take advantage of me? And many times that comes from low self-esteem. I'll just share that now. But many times that comes from low self-value and low self-worth. But what I request you do as we wrap up 2025 is take this concept and explore it and discover ways that you can be more giving in life. Put other people before yourself. Build other people. Serve other people. Let's make the world a better place. And when we do that with an open heart, not only are we filling up the coffers and the lives of other people, simultaneously, through the process of reciprocity, we're also doing that for our lives. As we wrap up this year, I think this is our 5th year doing the podcast, maybe even 6th. We have millions of downloads. We are in the top 102 categories. We have 4.9 stars and many thousands of reviews. If you would please show a little love and a little Ayni, go over to Apple and iTunes and leave a 5-star review for the podcast. If you've enjoyed and you've learned here anything this past year, I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to serve you, and I look forward to being able to serving you in even higher ways and higher levels in 2025. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next year. Bye-bye.